Hey house guests, welcome to part 2 of today's Big Brother 24 updates and spoilers. It is July 23rd and I'm gonna punch myself in the face if I have to do this again. I'm sorry, we were having some really annoying internet difficulties today, so we had to record and upload the rest of this spoiler, but it's really fun info, so at least we have that to look forward to. But thank you if you hopped over to part 2 from part 1. So, let's pick up where we left off. The house guests celebrated Joseph's birthday at midnight. He's only 25, he's just a little baby. And the house guests made a cake for him. They all wore tiny hats provided by Big Brother. And Indy cracked an egg on his head. Let the yolk drip down. Let the yolk drip down. I used to love that when I was a kid. But apparently it's a Brazilian tradition to crack an egg on the birthday person's head. He was very lucky, though, because I think it's also part of the tradition to throw flour at that person. Gross. Flour, like, sticking to you. So, sounds messy. But anyway, I'm sure it's like a luck thing. So, you gotta love a big birthday celebration in the Big Brother house. So, good for Joseph. Happy birthday. So after that, it seemed like it was going to be a boring night, but it wasn't. It was wild. There were some late night game chats that really mixed things up, changed the trajectory potentially of the rest of the season. So around 2 a.m., Kyle, Joe, Turner, and Monty are chatting in the HOH room. And they're talking about how the girls all really seem to be pushing for Kyle and Alyssa to get into a showmance. And we know that Kyle has been very resistant to this. He has admitted that he likes Alyssa, but he doesn't want to distract himself from the game. You know, he's trying to stay focused. Also, I really don't feel like he likes her that much anymore, just in my opinion. I feel like he's really put off by how jealous and possessive Alyssa seems to be. I don't think he's into that. Also, I think she's a little bit younger than him. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it between those two. But yeah, honestly, I don't even think Alyssa would be into him if they weren't in the Big Brother house. They just don't seem like a match to me. But anyway, Kyle is saying he wants to take it slow, wants to focus on the game, and the guys are agreeing, yeah, it probably would not be good for your game to get into a showmance right now. So you can figure out if you like each other for real in jury. You'll have time to get to know each other privately, all that. So then the guys were chatting about how it all went down last week. How did it work out that Pooch ended up going when at the beginning of the week everybody wanted Taylor to go? I mean, a huge part of that is just Pooch volunteering to go up on the block. And they did acknowledge that Pooch was responsible for a lot of that. You know, he definitely spiraled at the end, too. He was turning on everybody. But yeah, they're slowly piecing things together, and they're realizing that Amira was behind a lot of it. I mean, she leaked to Indy, Michael, and Brittany that Pooch was targeting them, and then, you know, that made them want to flip their votes and get rid of Pooch. I think they also just saw it as a huge opportunity to take out a big player like that. You know, he's offering to go up on the block. Take him out while you can. But Joe says, when Turner won HOH, Amira ran into the bathroom, puked, and cried, and said that she was going home. What? Like, that's a huge red flag. How have you not mentioned that yet? I mean, I feel like that's something that you bring up to your allies. But Joe says Amira must have turned the house against Pooch. That's why she was so upset when Turner won HOH. Because she realized she could be in trouble if Turner found out about it. So they agree, yes, this all makes sense. But they're not sure that they would have the votes to take Amira out this week. She is very well connected throughout the house. So Monty's pushing that they should still take Taylor out this week, take away a number from Amira. Of course Monty is saying that they should still get rid of Taylor, because Monty feels great with Amira, right? I mean, at least better than with Taylor. So Kyle's like, no. This is what we should do. We should pull in Brittany. No. We should use the veto on Brittany and Michael and then put up Amira and Terrence. We're going to go for it. We'll pull in Michael, Brittany, and Taylor to vote out Amira. You only need 6 to evict this week. And if they have Michael, Brittany, Taylor, Monty, Kyle, and Joe, that's 6. That's enough to evict. So they feel like they would potentially be able to pull in Michael, Brittany, and Taylor as well because, let's face it, Taylor doesn't have much going on. She is looking for people to work with. Michael and Brittany, very close to Kyle. Kyle is confident that he can bring them in, especially if it was a big move like getting out Amira. So then the guys were talking about how mean the girls are being to Taylor. Oh, now you see it? When you actually need Taylor for something and you want to work with her, now you're acknowledging that people have been mean to her. And it's not just the girls, it's the guys too. But anyway, they want to see what happens with the power of veto before they start making any real moves here. Because they got to make sure that Amira doesn't win the power of veto. Because if they go running their mouths and saying, like, we're getting Amira out of here, and then she wins the veto, that's going to get back to her. So they want to wait on that. Also, if Amira does win the veto, they decide we should probably try to take out Alyssa instead. Oh! After... I almost said Kyle again. After, what's his face? Turner told Alyssa she's safe this week. Yikes. And Kyle's, like, supposed to be in a showmance with her, kind of. Ugh. But anyway, they come up with a new name for this alliance. This alliance of Turner, Joe, Monty, and Kyle. Turner comes up with the name The Pound. Because of Pooch. I just can't. I can't. What is up with naming these alliances after terrible Big Brother players? I can't. So yeah, that's a thing. I'm excited about this. I'm not rooting for a guys alliance, of course. I like the power shifts. And let's face it, those girls, they had this coming. They were very messy last week. The way that they were isolating themselves and like ignoring people who were sitting in the same room with them. That's a lot. That's obnoxious. But anyway, this is wild. Wild change of events. So today, the house guests were up early for the POV player picks. And I gotta mention too, those dudes were up late the night before. They had to have only gotten a few hours of sleep, if even. So Joe is hosting the competition. Oh, okay. I thought that was Twitter with the POV results. It wasn't. It was my weather app. So
it says your internet's dead.
Yeah, those guys didn't get sleep. Joe was hosting, and they're only pulling one chip here for this veto competition. And we find out that Nicole and Taylor have been selected to play in the POV competition, along with Turner, Jasmine, Brittany, and Michael. Hey, pretty much like the most dramatic pick was picked. So we're not sure yet if everyone's competing with their festie bestie as duos or if they're competing as individuals. We don't know that yet. But the house guests were told if your bestie is evicted, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have safety after that. Oh? So, okay, after the picks, Michael and Brittany are chatting with Taylor in the golf bedroom. And Taylor is like, I know what I want to do with the power of veto. She would like to use it if she wins. But she says she would have to convince Nicole and Turner. So it's also not clear the mechanics of the POV this week. You know, if they're competing as teams, I'm assuming you have to have both members agreeing on what you're doing with the veto. But if they are competing as individuals, they get to make the decision by themselves, right? I mean, that makes sense. So we don't know what's up with that yet. But Taylor also wants to know, who is Turner planning on putting up as the replacement nominee if the veto is used? And Michael's like, oh, I haven't talked to Turner about that yet. I don't know. It was gonna be Taylor. He doesn't know yet about this new plan. Because remember, the guys are keeping this new plan to get out Amira under wraps. So Taylor says she's going to be going hard for that POV. You know where her heart is. She wants to work with Brittany and Michael. She trusts them. So Brittany says, we would return the favor for you in the future if we have the opportunity. Just keep that in mind. And Taylor's like, I know, I'm with you guys. I just have to massage the situation. and have some conversations, and then we can go from there. All right. So after these picks, Nicole is spiraling big time. Miss Cool, calm, collected, former police officer, take all the emotion out of it. She is crumbling. So she was chatting with Daniel in the HOH room. Turner joins them after a moment too. And Nicole is pissed that she and Taylor were selected to play in the Power Veto competition. She seems to think that this was rigged. She brought that up multiple times. She was like, I just knew I was going to be playing. She's thinking it was rigged. Damn. Okay, you could have taken out all the chips and made sure they were there, but they didn't. So Nicole says, I'm going to have to figure out a way to sabotage this competition so that Taylor can't win the Power Veto and be safe for the week. Because Nicole wants more than anything for Taylor to go. So Nicole's also panicking, like, okay, say it does work out and Taylor and I go up on the block as the replacement and Taylor goes, we just heard that announcement that the person who survives the eviction is not safe. So they think that there might be like a battle back or something. I don't know how those two things connect, but they seem to think there's a connection there. I don't know. Maybe they know other things that we don't. Who knows? But Nicole says she's still totally on board to throw this Power Veto competition to help everybody else, meaning to take out Taylor. That's not the plan anymore. So a few minutes later, Joe and Taylor chat in the car bedroom, and Joe tells Taylor, you know, do what you can in this competition. Don't count yourself out. You can do this. And then they were talking about who Turner would potentially put up as the replacement nominee. And Taylor is like, you know what? I feel like I should be okay this week. She feels good about her conversations with Turner. She doesn't even know yet that this plan has changed, and she should be safe. But she feels like Turner probably also wouldn't put Terrence up. Like, she's trying to figure out who it could be. So Joe starts to, like, drop some clues. He's like, yeah, it's really hard because of the besties twist. Like, say Turner doesn't want to put up Terrence, but, like, what if he did want to go for, like, Amira? But then he kind of backtracks, and he's like, that was, you know, in the hypothetical sense. He says he doesn't think that Turner would go for Amira. Can I make it more obvious? But then Nicole comes in, and it's, like, really awkward because they kind of, like, when she walks in, they change the conversation. She's talking to them for a few minutes, and then she leaves. So then Joe is telling Taylor, you know, if you win the veto, use that as an opportunity to build something with Turner. He's trying to encourage her, like, make sure you talk to Turner. It's going to be okay. All right. Meanwhile, Amira, Jasmine, Indy, Alyssa, and Brittany, so all of the women except for Taylor and Nicole, they're sitting in the living room, and word has already gotten around that Taylor is chatting with Joseph in the other room. So Amira is very paranoid about this. She's like, they've been in there for like 10 minutes with the door shut. They changed the subject when Nicole walked in. Like, what's going on in there? Ugh. So Jasmine starts talking crap about Taylor, of course. She's calling her creepy. She's like, I wake up in the middle of the night and Taylor's just like staring. I really doubt that, but okay. Jasmine's like, Taylor was so excited when her chip was pulled. Yeah, because she wants to play in the competition and potentially, like, protect herself because she's been up the last 2 weeks. But Jasmine says, I'm almost willing to risk the rest of my foot to go for the Power Veto. I can't. I'm sorry. Jasmine in this injury is too much. I'm not doubting that she's injured, but, like, you know she's been taking advantage of this. Okay, so a few minutes later, Joe sits down to chat with Amira, Alyssa, and Jasmine, and they want the tea. What was this conversation about with Taylor? So Joe says, well, she was just asking me, like, who Turner would put up as the replacement nominee, and she was asking me because she knows I'm close to him. So Jasmine's like, I don't know, it was a long time you were talking to her. So Amira's just like, Taylor has to go this week. We have to get her out. She can't win this competition. So then Amira checks in with Nicole and Indy, and Amira says, Joe was effing lying to me. He wasn't honest about what he was talking about with Taylor. There's no way. So then Joe comes in, and he says Taylor knows that there's a possibility that she could go up this week, so she's going to be gunning hard for for that power veto. I'm sure that's exactly what Amira wants to hear right now. And Nicole. But Nicole's like, look, man, you can tell me if Taylor was already campaigning to you. Oh my god, so paranoid. So Joe's like, no, she was not campaigning. So, a little while later, Nicole's whispering to Daniel and Amira. And Nicole says, I swear to God, if this is effing Pooch 2.0, I'm gonna be effing livid. So Daniel's like, what does that mean? And Nicole says, I better not be going. So Daniel and Amira are reassuring her, you would have the votes. If you do end up next to Taylor, you'd have the votes. Don't worry. Maybe not, though. Now that the pound is on to Amira and Nicole and their friends, maybe they would vote out Nicole over Taylor, and they could potentially have the votes to do it. So Nicole and Amira are convinced that Joe is lying about what he discussed with Taylor, and Nicole and Amira are spiraling. You love to see it. Okay, so then Joe reports back to Monty and Turner that Amira is freaking out right now, and they really feel like this confirms their suspicions about the girls, that they were being sneaky, they had plans to take out the guys, blah, blah, blah. So they also feel like this shows Amira flipped the vote last week to take out Pooch, and now she's nervous that Taylor could be safe this week, and maybe she could be in trouble. So they're like, Amira, she smells that we're onto her. She's sniffing this out. She's gotta go. She smells it. Whoever smelt it dealt it. Okay. So then things get even crazier, because at one point today, Nicole comes out of the diary room and she is upset. She goes back to the Jetsons' bedroom. There's people hanging out in there. She's like, guys, can I have the room? So they all leave. And then Nicole starts sobbing. Like, sobbing loudly. So Daniel's coming in. He's not confronting. He's comforting her. And he's saying, I'm here for you no matter what. You're not alone. So nobody knows what's going on at this point. But then Nicole is like, this game is so hard. She says, I feel like such a horrible, effing disgusting person. So we'll leave that there. News travels around the house that Nicole is crying and upset. And everybody automatically thinks it's the worst. They're like, oh my god, I hope that she didn't get bad news about her mom. Because remember, we just saw on the show that Nicole's mom has cancer, which is very, very sad and not... It's horrible. So everybody's like, oh my god, I hope her mom's okay. I hope she's not going to be leaving. So Taylor is like, I'm not a religious person, but like, can we say a prayer for Nicole and her mom's health? So that was really sweet. Meanwhile, Daniel and Nicole are bashing Taylor and saying that she's a bad person. You can't make this up. And it sounds like from this conversation that the diary room must have given Nicole a talking to. You know, how they've been, seems like, pulling people aside and being like, hey, maybe don't be such a jerk. Especially, like, when Taylor is concerned. But Daniel is all like, I don't give a crap. Like, people don't know what's really going on in here. If you ask any of the other house guests, like, they'll tell you what a shitty person Taylor is. Dude, we see the live feeds. We've seen it. We know that she's not a shitty person. And you guys, I don't know what's going on with everybody else, but it's not a good look. So, eventually, the house, who they've all been upset and panicking, they learn, no, Nicole's mom is okay. That's not why she's upset. Okay. So then, not too long after that, the feeds eventually go down for the Power Veto competition. And just to remind you, the players are Turner and Jasmine. I don't know if Jasmine's participating or not. I guess it's going to depend on what type of competition it is. Michael and Brittany, the two nominees, and the two extra players, Taylor and Nicole. So, I think they're still going. So, if you want to check back later, we will post the results for the POV competition in the info for this one, I guess, for part 2. Thank you again for coming over here, if you came over here. And I also want to thank our super chatters from part 1, because we really appreciate you guys. So, Jefferson Tucker, thank you so much. Susan Pengilly, thank you so much. Jarrett Mays, thank you so much for your super chat. And Jarrett says, killing it on spoilers, more efficient than feeds. Thank you. I'm glad that I can kind of like just give you the important stuff, kind of weed out the BS, because there's a lot of BS. But thank you for watching. Sean Davis, thank you so much for the super chat. And Sean says, I've never seen people complain so much about one person from day to night. I feel like I've seen it before, but it's always
Warranted?
upsetting. No, a lot of times it's not, but it's always upsetting. Sean says, I used to feel bad for Brittany, but she is just as bad, sitting back watching people talk negatively about Taylor. I would agree to a certain extent. I feel like she's kind of she's in self-preservation mode, you know?
She's got her own issues.
She's not openly, like, bashing Taylor, but like you said, she's also not, like, stepping up and really defending her because she knows, like, she's gonna be next. So I get it, but it's also, like, sad to see. It's really sad. Nicole and Daniel have to go. That's what Sean says. I could be down with that. Okay, thank you again. Not the first Noel, thank you for your super chat. And they said, so excited that the game is moving in a different direction. Thank you for your amazing updates, especially amidst the craziness with your move. Oh my goodness, yeah. I'm not sure yet what next week is looking like move-wise. I think we're still going to have, like, uninterrupted coverage. That's the plan anyway.
The internet will cooperate.
Yeah, now we just need the internet to cooperate, but we're doing our best, and we appreciate all you guys being really understanding about it. So, thank you all so much for watching.
And there's no spoiler tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow is Sunday, so we will be off from the spoiler, but we will be covering the 2-hour episode.
1 hour less than the Gilligan's Island tour.
Whoa. So, that's pretty wild. But, yeah, we'll be recapping that tomorrow night, and then the next spoiler will be on Monday. So, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, much love.